It's my honor to introduce you this morning to Ellen Coleman. She is a registered dietitian, board certified in sports dietetics, and also an exercise physiologist. She is working and some semi-retired in Riverside, California. She's consulted with the Los Angeles Lakers basketball team, the Angels baseball team, the Ducks hockey team, but go Caps. I am from D.C. Sorry, go Caps. She has authored several books and numerous articles on sports nutrition. As we all know, she's a member of the Academy, also the American College of Sports Medicine, and has served as a former chair of the Sports Cardiovascular and Wellness Nutrition Practice Group of the Academy, a former symposium chair. She has a little experience putting together meetings like this. She's received the Medallion Award, the SCAN Achievement Award, and the California Dietetic Association Award for Excellence in Private Practice. Clearly, she is respected among her peers. But Ellen is also the sports RD that is called in by the National Institutes of Health to present on the topic you'll hear today. She's the sports RD for whom internationally renowned sports nutrition and exercise physiology experts will fly around the world to come and speak at the conference she's organizing. I've seen it happen. The SCAN symposium that she organized was phenomenal. And I suspect her clients over the years have respected her not only for her nutrition expertise, but also for her athleticism. You may not know that Ellen has completed numerous marathons, 200-mile bike rides, and is a two-time finisher of the Ironman triathlon in Hawaii. So she walks the talk. And today when she's not speaking at Fancy, she's up on a mountain somewhere in Northern California. So if you're a hiker up there, you may see her one day. So please join me in welcoming Ellen Coleman.
Thank you, Cheryl. That was wonderful. I was ready to get the hip boots out there for a minute. And when I did the Ironman, I would basically like to, you hear about people transitioning from one event to another. You hear about them transitioning to a new age group. I am an ex-triathlete who transitioned to hiking because of back problems. So that was my big transition. But I'm glad I had the opportunity to do it. I want to disclose that I am a board member of the EAS Academy. Anybody who was here yesterday heard the wonderful Dr. Stephen Hertzler talk about the paleo diet. He's with EAS. I have also done talks for the Gatorade Sports Science Institute. So essentially what I want to do is to enable you, I think as dietitians, we know about the regulatory problems with dietary supplements, and just so you know, it's even worse than you thought. As I was putting this talk together, I said, wow, this is worse than I thought on the regulatory front. And secondly, be able to, look at a supplement and say, okay, what am I going to consider? An athlete says to me, I want to take creatine. What am I going to say? How am I going to approach that? And last but not least, identify 2 reliable internet resources to evaluate and research supplements. And as far as just general understanding again, just to remind us that dietary supplements are defined as vitamins, minerals, herbs, other botanicals, amino acids, other dietary substances, and any concentrate, metabolite, constituent, or extract. Now, just looking at this definition sort of gives you an idea how easy it is to take something and pretend it came from a plant and put it in a dietary supplement. When we come back to concentrate, metabolite, constituent, extract. And indeed, anabolic steroids are not dietary supplements, and yet they're found in them. Methamphetamine analogs are not dietary supplements, and yet they're found in them. In the case of the safety issues for the athletic population, testing positive can completely ruin their life as an athlete, especially an Olympic athlete, where you have a very short window in which you may have the superior prowess in your sport. So regulatory problems, again, keep in mind Products go to market without any pre-market approval. They're just presumed to be safe. Pardon me while I go cough over here. They're presumed to be effective, and FDA lacks mandatory recall authority until there is a proven danger, which basically means until enough people have died or become ill. And that's what, I know, very seriously, that is what I meant about it's worse than I thought when I was putting the talk together. Good manufacturing practices, I mean, since the publication of Deshay in 1994, which to me let all of the foxes running for the hen house, okay, the wild, wild west. Since then, there have been amendments to Deshay to try to improve it. Things like, ensuring good manufacturing processes. But they're hard to enforce. And they're hard to enforce, I'll come back to that in a minute, because there are so many supplement companies and so many supplements. So 70% of supplement companies that the FDA inspected from 210 to 212 failed to comply with GMP standards. Now keep in mind, they didn't test every supplement company out of there. So this is pretty scary to take a small group of supplement manufacturers and almost 3/4 of them don't meet GMP regulations. That's frightening to me. Also, more than half of adulterated dietary supplements that have been recalled, so supplements with DMAA, methylhexanamine, which I'll be referring to again in a bit, you can still go out and buy them. I found places, for the heck of it, I'm on the internet, and I found places I could buy products with DMAA. So, we spend a lot of money on our dietary supplements. The sports and weight loss market of this total $32 billion is fairly high, by the way. It comprises a good portion of the $32 billion that we spend. And 85,000 different combinations. So 85,000 supplements. How can anybody keep up with that? Basically, and the FDA in their defense has limited resources to monitor the marketplace for potentially harmful dietary supplements. The really frightening thing, to come back to when I talked about the definition of a supplement, is that there are two sides to the supplement industry. There is what I call the good side, and there is the dark side. And so what I will be talking to you about today is sadly problems that are posed by the dark side. And an emerging trend has occurred where supplement companies are putting undeclared or deceptively labeled ingredients into dietary supplements and selling them as supplements when instead they're potent drugs. There have been more than 500 adulterated supplements promoted for bodybuilding, weight loss, and I threw in sexual enhancement here. That's not necessarily part of this unless you're a sexual athlete. Wait a minute. Okay. Scratch that. Back up. But just, be aware, because I know we work with all facets of the population, and guys, that's well, what can I say? I'm going to stop while I'm behind. So, athletes may unknowingly take products laced with various quantities of banned substances, anabolic steroids, new anabolic steroids, amphetamines, new stimulants, or active ingredients in prescription drugs or their untested analogs. As an example, to come back to the weight loss market, it seems like not a week goes by, but when I look at the FDA warning list, and I'm going to give you the link for that, weight loss products are constantly showing up with sibutramine, which was Meridia. Remember, it got pulled off the market for safety? Well, there's all this sibutramine lying around, I guess, and the supplement companies are thinking, hey, let's put it in our worthless weight loss product so people will lose weight. Well, they might, but they also might lose health. And of course, in the case of, again, back to sexual enhancement, we're seeing either seeing sildenafil or the generic for Viagra or analogs of the prescription sexual enhancement drugs that are on the market. Now, we know that anabolic steroids and methamphetamines carry risks. The scary thing about the chemists hanging out in the garage mixing up novel anabolic steroids, novel analogs of methamphetamine, is that these products have never been tested in humans. So this makes it, to me, even scarier. I mean, we already know the risks of anabolic steroids and stimulants. And so what we have seen from the designer steroids, we have seen things like liver injury, stroke, kidney failure, pulmonary embolism. In the case of novel stimulants, increased blood pressure, irregular heart rhythm, stroke, and death. But remember, supplements are natural. Ask Socrates how natural hemlock was, what he drank to kill himself, right? So doping risks, which is really kind of the focus of this talk, is supplements may cost the unwary athlete to test positive for doping. Now, fortunately, we have a great organization through the USADA, the U.S. Anti-Doping Association. There's WADA, I love the acronyms, WADA, USADA. But the USADA has a whole Supplement 411 fabulous resource, absolutely fabulous. And I referred to it frequently in putting together this talk. Now, why does this happen? Well, there are several possibilities. Supplements may contain prohibited substances not declared on the label. That to me is incredibly evil. Somebody takes a whey protein supplement, tests positive, and if you're an Olympian, you lose a couple of years of competition. And if you had won something and had a medal, they take your medal away as well. Now, this can happen because of contamination. So if the dark side of the supplement company is actually intentionally making products with anabolic steroids or stimulants, there can be cross-contamination making, what would be considered safer supplements like a protein supplement. Hey, it's just, it's protein. The problem is it could be cross-contamination, but there's very strong evidence it's deliberate adulteration. It's done intentionally. As I alluded to, suddenly occurred to me, these poor people on the right, I haven't even looked over here. What happens when, if you deliberately adulterate it, you take something that may be completely worthless and suddenly make it work. But again, if it has drug effects, it can have a positive effect, it can have a negative effect. The problem is, and I totally understand this, no matter what the athlete says, we can prove even that they have ingested the prohibited substance in a dietary supplement, they are still suffer penalties because they are warned constantly. Anything you put in your mouth, it's your responsibility. So the only recourse the athlete has, and it's not that great, is to sue the supplement company that made the product. They have to prove the product contained the prohibited substance, first of all, and then they have to file a lawsuit. So you can see what a mess this is. To give you a more realistic scope of the problem, the IOC did a study. They mail-ordered 634 products, mail-ordered them from around the world, and these products were nutritional supplements for muscle building, but they did not declare any hormones. I mean, sometimes you could look at a supplement and see, oh, this thing has, back in the day, although androstenedione, you could look and see, okay, this has androstenedione in it. But let's go back to the example of somebody who wants to do weightlifting, bodybuilding, gain lean mass, they take a protein supplement or they take a creatine supplement, and suddenly, bang, they're doing great. I mean, very, very quickly. That's my other, by the way, if somebody takes a product and it works very fast, that's a big red flag for me, that there are drugs there. So looking at this, you can see that products that did not declare anabolic steroids or hormones of any sort, 15% of them had anabolic steroids that would have caused athletes to fail a doping test. A more recent study, I went the wrong way here. The more recent study was conducted by Informed Choice, and they limited their scope to the U.S. 58 supplements they looked at, 25% contained steroids, almost 12% contained stimulants. The highest incident of contamination was found in what they call the testosterone boosters. When you see those, by the way, they very often claim to have herbal products in them, like yohimbine, for example, okay, that claim to enhance sexual enhancement or testosterone. The second highest incident, weight loss, obviously, and the third highest in muscle building. So I really want to encourage you to visit this great website that's put out by USADA called Supplement 411. And what they did, they have ways to try to keep athletes safe, not only safe health-wise, but keep them eligible to compete by not testing positive. So the first thing, in fact, this is what I say anymore, is how can you reduce your risk? Look for third-party certification. The first group to offer for sports supplements to offer third-party certification that a supplement is free of banned substances is NSF. And they have NSF certified for sport. And dietitians in here that have worked with pro teams and Olympic dietitians know basically that's just about the only, you have to go with a third-party approved supplement in terms of if you're going to provide a supplement or recommend a supplement. I mean, can you imagine you accidentally tell somebody their protein supplement is okay and then they come back testing positive for anabolic steroids? Yeah, I mean, not to mention their health issues. Another newer organization doing this is Informed Choice. And they have like an American website and an international website. That's why you have basically the two URLs here. So you can look for specific warnings by visiting 411 because this is fantastic, they have a supplement high risk list. When you log into the site, if you click, just to warn you, it'll say, who are you? Are you, professional athlete, whatever. You acknowledge that by using this site, we can't guarantee that we have found all the bad guys out on the market. But it's a very, very simple, just to make sure that people are, plus that even though we thought, let me back up, I'm sorry. So there may be other products out there that are not included on the high risk list, but this is certainly a good place to start. The other good place to start is the FDA Tainted Supplements webpage. And that's where I said I went when I found that almost every week a weight loss supplement is showing up with sibutramine in it. There are red flags. How can you identify products that might be risky for athletes? So any of these following characteristics pose an elevated risk. And if the label lists substances prohibited by the World Anti-Doping Association, that's kind of a given, right? If it says right there on the supplement label, the product contains dimethyl or DMAA, methylhexanamine, right there, that is a banned substance. So obviously, okay, and how do you know whether or not a substance is banned? You look at the list. What I find very helpful for me and other dietitians, as well as for athletes, is talking to an athlete and saying, look at the ingredient panel. If you see these compounds that end in OL, DIOL or STEAN, you're probably looking at an anabolic steroid. If you see products with a lot of numbers, you're also probably looking at either an anabolic steroid or a stimulant. Because so many of the adulterated products are found in the bodybuilding, weight loss, pre-workout, energy enhancement category, avoid products that make those claims. Increases muscle mass, promotes weight loss. The bodybuilding ones pretty obviously may contain anabolic steroids or aromatase inhibitors. What that does, the aromatase inhibitors keep testosterone from being broken down to estrogen. So the attempt of those is to keep testosterone levels high. In weight loss, as we know, they may contain stimulants, diuretics, or drugs. Quick story here. I've got many, but I'll put this one in here. Anybody familiar with the supplement called Rumafin? If you are, raise your hand. Rumafin, really popular arthritis remedy. I know this isn't sports specific, but this will just go to illustrate what the problem is. My older sister, 2 bad knees, eventually will need knee replacements, started taking Rumafin. Now, fortunately, she really respects me, so she says, I'm taking this stuff. I said, what's in it? She hands me this list of all these herbs, and I look at this, and I go, and then she says, I started taking it yesterday, and I feel great today. My knees don't hurt. And I look at her, I'm like, okay. And I said, all right, let's, about a week goes by, because I told her when she said she felt better, I said, Carol, the only reason you can feel better is because that product has either an anti-inflammatory drug in it or cortisone or something else, like a muscle relaxant. I basically spelled out, no product can have that quick of an effect unless it's a prescription drug. So it turned out, fortunately, well, not for the people started running into problems with it. And the other thing, it originates in Mexico, and it's a ghost. It's really hard to find who's making it, where it's coming from. The FDA has pulled it off the market, but it's still one of those things. When you can't really trace down who's making it or where it comes in from, it's hard to stop. The FDA did get a hold of some, tested it, immediately told all the stores selling it, pull this off the shelves. Basically, it contained diclofenac, which is an anti-inflammatory, a non-steroidal anti-inflammatory found in, it's Voltaren is the regular name. It contained cortisone. That's why my sister pumped up a couple of pounds. And it contained a muscle relaxant. Well, needless to say, my sister after 1 week realized, this is way before the FDA warnings, but she said, this just isn't normal. And I said, that's right. Will you please stop taking it now? And she said, yes. But just to give you an example, arthritis is incredibly painful. A lot of dietary supplements and a lot of alternative therapies, appeal to people who have pain from having arthritis. Okay. So the other thing goes back to the cross-contamination I was telling you about. If the company is already selling a product that contains, you figured out this company is selling a product that contains a stimulant or a steroid, then I wouldn't buy any other of the product line, even if they said the product is clean, with parentheses. One of my favorite things to hate about supplements are the proprietary blends. Because you look, I love it. Somebody says, well, again, let's go back to the evaluation. And I look and I may see, whey protein, creatine monohydrate, and all of those will be in grams. The creatine will be in grams. The protein will be in grams. Get to the proprietary blend. They take herbs and other, let's go back to what you can call a dietary supplement, an extract here or this there, and give them really fancy names and put them in, so for a while there was a belief that arginine alpha ketoglutarate might cause vasodilation and help somebody increase muscle mass by delivering more blood to the muscles. Well, one of the companies selling a supplement with AKG in it called it vasodilase. But you have no idea you have no idea what's in it. And this is assuming, not to mention, this is assuming they're even telling you everything that's in it. So see, we have several problems here. Not only do proprietary blends make it hard, but we can't necessarily believe the supplement company in the first place because of the problems with the adulterated supplements. I tell people, one of my colleagues in SCAN, his name is Tavis, I probably mispronounce his last name, but people would post on the SCAN listserv knowing Tavis or I would respond. They'd say, what do you think of this supplement? And I have fun. It's like a mystery. I start researching the ingredients. If nothing else, it can be very humorous sometimes to look at the names they give, the little compounds. And one product came out and he said, this stuff has more ingredients than a Big Mac. So we said, we have to trademark that. I said, Tavis, I'm going to steal it, but I'm going to give you credit every time I say it. So when you see lots of ingredients or unfamiliar ingredients, and I'm pretty familiar with supplements, folks, and I can still tell you, I will look at some supplement bottles, look at an ingredient and go, I have never heard of this. So I have to try to figure out what it is. The more ingredients, the harder the quality control, and the easier it is to throw a little anabolic steroid or stimulant or Viagra or whatever else. Products that claim to have the same effects as prescription drugs. I find it very interesting that people that do not want to take, there are problems with statins. As we know, statins are great for reducing cholesterol. They do have some side effects. They're prescription drugs, though, right? You're monitoring somebody when they're on a statin. And yet these same people that, oh no, I don't want to take a statin, run out and buy red yeast rice because it has a compound in it very similar to lovastatin, the original statin called Mevacor. Okay, so the other possibility is that the compound, when they say it has the same effect, it may have an actual prescription medication in it. And so that's one warning. The other warning is, as soon as we hear the natural comment, it's natural, but you can get the same effects as anabolic steroids, growth hormone, et cetera, et cetera. Heck no. Nothing works. If somebody's claiming that to me immediately is, you can't get the effect that fast, which means there's something else in it that shouldn't be there. Herbs. Herbs do contain compounds that can have pharmaceutical activity. And again, I look at this as, when you look at a pharmacologically active compound, a drug or an herb that can have a drug effect, you can have positive effects, you can have adverse effects. So, for every positive effect, you're also looking at the possibility for an adverse effect too. Plus, and this is where things have become really sneaky, is the dark side listing herbs, all natural, like my sister with her Rumafan, all natural products coming from herbs, and then the FDA tests them, or Dr. Paul Cohen at Harvard, who's a tremendous advocate for dietary supplement reform. Basically, the supplement manufacturers take a chemical, take and claim it came from an herb. Probably the most well-known was DMAA, methylhexanamine. Back in 2012, when I gave the supplement safety talk at the NIH, I talked about methylhexanamine. Two of the most popular products back then were from USP Labs. Okay, not the United States Pharmacopoeia, but USP Labs. I'll come back to that in a minute. They both had DMAA in it. The military had already pulled it off their shelves because these young, fit guys were dropping dead after training, or passing out or having strokes. But it took the FDA a while. So methylhexanamine, in theory, is found in geranium oil. And then there are designer stimulants. This is the new trend right now. Phenylethylamines listed as coming from acacia, dendrobium orchid, or other plants. So let's walk through. I like alliteration, don't you? The DMAA debacle. DMAA was initially developed by Eli Lilly as an inhaled decongestant drug called Forthane. It was introduced as a dietary supplement under the name of geraniamine by Patrick Arnold. Does anybody know the name Patrick Arnold? Okay. You want the soap opera of the dark side? Patrick Arnold helped Victor Conti of what's called the Balco scandal, Bay Area Laboratory Cooperative. Victor Conti, Patrick Arnold. Patrick Arnold made the clear for Victor Conti. There was a deep throat in that organization that eventually sent a syringe of the clear to the USAID analytical lab, and they identified it as a steroid, but it took them a while to try to figure out exactly what it was. So Patrick Arnold, he was involved with that, and after Balco, keep in mind, Balco was this whole, the investigations were going on, athletes were getting into trouble, because of using the products and claiming they didn't know they were steroids, and yeah. I'm getting an injection, it's a vitamin injection. Okay. So he brought in geraniamine. He also made androstenedione really big. Andro. Remember Mark McGuire and the whole andro? Again, kind of the andro scandal. Well, so some firms, and it was especially USP Labs, claimed that it was naturally found in geranium oil. This was disproven multiple times. And it's essentially used in bodybuilding, weight loss products, also like the pre-workout products, like the Jacked 3D, okay? That's a big one, It was found in that. Well, the military removed it after they had problems with troops becoming very ill. The FDA prohibited the sale in 2013 and warned consumers of serious health risks. And on the FDA webpage, the FDA has to justify why it took 2 years after the Army to tell the public to stop taking this stuff. The head of USP Labs is Jacob Giesler. He's the CEO. He has been convicted. He has a criminal past involving anabolic steroids. And he's running a supplement company. Okay? Health and doping risks. So by 13, when I gave this talk in 2012, the number of adverse event reports was half this. But they had people dying, arrhythmias, what you would expect with a very strong amphetamine compound. The really sad thing is, even after being banned, athletes who are not vigilant enough tested positive at the 2014 Winter Olympics. And, of course they said, but I just took a supplement. Well, sorry, WADA says you're done, go home. That's it. So here's what's very interesting is that then another product with DMAA is called OxyElite Pro. And this same lovely USP Lab group, by the way, USP Labs fought the FDA. The GNC, they did not want to pull it off the shelves. The FDA was asking people to pull it off the shelves, okay? The GNC didn't want to comply. USP Labs said, no, we can show you studies proving it comes from geranium oil and that it's safe. Well, the studies they presented to the FDA, which of course they paid for, were not exactly convincing. But because of the public pressure, USP Labs just gave up and said, okay, we're going to reformulate OxyElite Pro. So then here's the big problem. What they put in instead was worse. They put in a product called Ageline, which is an alkaloid extract from a bale tree. They put this in for DMAA in certain products. There was a cluster of cases of Hawaii, severe hepatitis, liver failure, and the Hawaii Department of Health contacted the Centers for Disease Control. They came to investigate. They linked this all to the OxyElite Pro supplements that were being sold in Hawaii. By February, 97 cases, 3 liver transplant, and 1 death. And after this came out, somebody wrote a great investigative article of something to the effect of, brought to you by USP Labs, the same people that ruined your liver. So we now move on to another one that has created problems, Craze. And what happened here, Craze is made by Driven Sports. The vice president of Driven Sports is Matt Cahill. Matt Cahill is a convicted felon. He took like an explosive and what did he use? There was something else. It was, I think, an explosive and something that cleans drains, and made a steroid and was selling it. It was called DNP. People started dying very quickly because of how bad it was. So fortunately, that got shut down fairly quickly. But as he's going into prison, he's now with Driven Sports and is bringing out another product. Well, what happened here is that Peter Cohen's group at Harvard started testing batches of Craze and found that a methamphetamine analog known as, I'm just going to call it NADP, was identified. And when I say analog, I mean almost having the exact same effects as methamphetamine. Now, the label-listed phenylethylamines derive from denobium orchid extract. FDA sent a warning letter to Driven Sports, and of course, what does the company say? But we got that compound from orchids. It's natural. FDA does the research. Peter Cohen's lab helps. They discover, wow, these things are not found in denobrium orchids at all. In other words, they've been added. So what happened here is that the USA investigation, if you want to read a great series of articles that's also very depressing, read USA Today supplement shell game. In fact, all you have to do in your search engine, put USA Today, supplements, and you'll get the link that talks about makers of supplement companies having criminal pasts. The reason that the criminal past part bothers me because they're doing stuff with supplements that they were indicted for. Okay? It's not like, oh, I robbed a bank and now I'm making supplements. Oh no. I can't make anabolic steroids anymore, so I think I'll still make them, but I'll put them in a dietary supplement now. So I think, as you can see, it's possible that an athlete may be extremely vigilant and still test positive for a prohibited substance or fall victim to negative health effects. And so here is the sad truth, is the only way for athletes to eliminate risks associated with supplements is to avoid dietary supplement use altogether. And that has to be said. Now, I believe that we have really good third-party certification with NSF. That's my feeling. Here's the other thing. When I first started doing sports nutrition, what I've discovered myself doing, I wanted to counsel people on, increasing muscle mass and endurance athletes on carbohydrate loading for their marathon, and I found myself deluged with, tell me about this supplement. What's in it? Can I take it? Is it safe? And that is actually what got me into looking at supplements, because of course all of us want athletes to eat food. I'm a food pusher too. But the reality is, if we don't own this area, if we don't own supplements, people are just going to walk into their local health food store. Actually, it's even easier. They'll go to their personal trainer, their certified personal trainer at their gym, and who will be more than happy to sell them a multi-level marketed supplement product. So we need to own this, I think. That's my opinion. And fortunately, we have some really good resources now, so this does not take nearly as long to evaluate and find things out. Thanks to the internet and this excellent site here at 411, you can learn stuff fairly quickly. So I will talk to athletes about supplements. In fact, I basically say, are you taking anything? And be honest, because I said, I need to know, because then we need to talk about, why are you taking it? What do you think it's doing for you? And then, go through the whole rationale. If you refuse to talk to them about supplements, they will find somebody else that will be happy that is not as qualified as we are. If you, in fact, I probably could have had time to do this today. We're actually going to go on the internet so I can show you one of the good resources. But I love watching this video. It's a supplement bottle with the label, with the person, narrating it. It's on YouTube, talking about, when you look at the label, what are you seeing? Gee, this is a little suspicious. The other thing it talks about is the companies may claim, but big seal, GMP, certified. That doesn't mean, by the way, that doesn't mean anything. In terms of third-party certification, it's NSF and informed choice. And for other products, non-sports products that athletes wouldn't necessarily take, Consumer Lab. I'll come to them in a bit. But it's a very, very good way to see the tricks and loopholes. They use unfamiliar names for stimulants. They use unfamiliar names for anabolic steroids, which is why those, as I said, lots of numbers, lots of Greek letters, alpha, beta. The stimulant coming from acacia is actually a kind of a relative of DP. I think it's MEP or something like that, that supposedly comes from acacia, but doesn't. And the FDA just stepped up and is now telling companies with that stimulant that's theoretically coming from acacia, they're telling them, stop making this stuff. So what do I go through? What steps do I go through? I used to actually start my supplement talk with this first slide. Primary considerations, 4 of them. Safety, effectiveness, and because of athletes, not just athletes, who else undergoes drug testing? Police officers, firefighters, some employment places, airline, I think, did somebody say airline pilots? Yeah, so a lot of people have to undergo testing that are not athletes necessarily, that can also get into trouble. And in my case, I go back to the Hippocratic Oath and I say, The most important consideration is safety. Here's the thing. If an athlete comes to me, hands me a bottle with the NSF approved for sport label on it, and it is a supplement that I know to be completely and totally a waste of money. And I'm not going to mention any names because but I know that product is safe. What I would likely say to the athlete is, I have no proof this is going to help you, but I have very good proof it's not going to hurt you. And so that's great, but make sure, if you're using a particular, like a protein supplement or whatever, make sure you continue to look for that seal. Don't start switching to save money. So first, do no harm. And the rest of this, basically, how do you evaluate something? You look at a drug, and supplements, sadly, very often are being sold like they're drugs. They aren't, they shouldn't be, and yet because of the dark side, there are drugs and supplements. But essentially, I look at it and go, okay, does the method of action make sense? And I'm going to do that with creatine when we get to the natural medicines database in a few moments. But basically, considering the risks, benefits of use, you have to have safety and effectiveness, just like when drugs have to go to approval to go to market. It's the same thing with supplements. I'm going to look at both of those things. And something that, will the product cause a person to test positive, whether it's an athlete or somebody else that can really get into trouble for innocently ingesting a banned substance. If the product is unfamiliar, visit websites. Another thing, by the way, when I go to a website and I have a hard time finding the supplement facts label, that's kind of a big deal for me. You're selling this and yet I can't quite find out what's in it. I think I'll go somewhere else. But it is fun to look at the ingredients and the method of action. Yeah, I like mysteries. And then obviously, if you have a body of research, which on most supplements, we don't have a body of research, but if you do on a supplement like creatine or whey protein, you meticulously examine these for safety and effectiveness. Now, quality is also an issue, and supplement quality is an issue for every single human being that takes a dietary supplement. So this applies to any supplement at all. Identity, does the product match what's on the label? Potency, does it contain the amount of the ingredient that it says it has? Purity, is it free of unacceptable levels of contaminants such as lead? Availability, do you digest it? If it passes right through into, where stuff goes. If it passes right through and you can still see it in the porcelain throne, clearly your body didn't absorb it. So the first group to really look at the quality issue was the United States Pharmacopoeia, USP, not USP Labs. I still want USP to go after USP Labs and make them to, do a cease and desist, because the public sees the USP and goes, oh. Okay, so we know that according to the Consumer Lab, Ted Cooperman, the director of Consumer Lab, something like 25% of the products they test fail testing. They either have pesticides, salmonella glass, bacteria, lead, cadmium. I always like a little cadmium in my supplements. And others fail third-party testing due to they don't have any of the active ingredient. That's always really fun, by the way. Improper ingredients, failure to break down properly, and mislabeling, misbranding. So where do we go for supplement quality? Oh, wait, I'm going to come back to that. Sorry. What has happened recently, this is very interesting, and this is not necessarily a safety issue at all. It's an economic issue for me. Whey protein is very, very expensive. High quality whey protein isolate is expensive. It has good properties. Again, I happen to like whey protein. I also happen to like milk, because then you get a balance. You get your 20% of your whey and your 80% casein, and your amino acid profiles jump up because of the whey, but then stay sustained because of the casein. So, you know, milk is a great muscle building supplement. Okay, I have nothing to do with the Dairy Council. Sorry, I had to throw that in. But what has happened is some companies, and these are not necessarily this is not necessarily the dark side, okay, but some companies that want to make a little more money, it's called protein spiking. And so what they do is they take nitrogenous compounds, which are not proteins, things like creatine, taurine, non-essential amino acids, to bump up the protein content. So they can sell the, you know, if the product is supposed to have 40 grams of whey protein per serving, which is kind of overkill, but if it's supposed to have 40 and you only get 20, right, you have to take twice as much of that stuff. Not to mention, I'm not sure I want these other, if I want creatine, I will take creatine by itself. So protein spiking, it has become a big deal in the sports nutrition industry. You can look at Nutra ingredients. You know, in fact, just even do protein supplement spiking, and you can read articles about it, because companies were getting away with this for a while until I think it was the Council for Responsible Nutrition. There was a meeting where this issue was brought up. Hey, you know, you guys aren't selling the real stuff. We're selling the real stuff. And you're not giving the public what they're paying for. Food fraud. So quality certifications, products eligible for consumer lab. I love this. I love this resource. It's not that expensive. It makes my life a lot easier now than it was back in the days. You know, when I would have to go try to find journal articles and books, and I'm not talking on the internet, folks. I'm talking actual journal articles and books to learn about supplements. Products that have United States Pharmacopoeia on the label, and products that are NSF certified. From my standpoint, the absolute best internet resource, which I'm going to brand the session right now, the Sports Cardiovascular and Wellness DPG. If you are a member, one of your member benefits is to get the Natural Medicine Comprehensive Database for free. All you have to do is log into the website. We're gonna take you there, but I want to just show you what this looks like. Consumer Lab is also excellent. With Consumer Lab, you can even, they have what they call the Natural Products Encyclopedia by ECBO. To back up here, the Natural Medicine Comprehensive Database, very scientifically written. Okay, so it's really more intended for us. When I go and look up that same ingredient on Consumer Lab, it's great information, it's referenced information, but it's not as scientifically detailed. And they include less products, obviously, than the Natural Medicine Database does. And of course, you can always check PubMed too. I really like it when somebody else has done most of the work. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to click here, and then Cheryl, who gave me a lovely introduction, is going to help me out. Okay. So you can see at the bottom here where I'm clicking, she has already logged us in, I think. Come on. Oh, come on, don't do wait a minute. Whoop, I think I have it. Okay. Now, Cheryl's going to type in creatine. I can mouse, but I can't type. And I'm going to click on the professional monograph. You will notice, by the way, they do several evaluations. They evaluate the individual, the actual chemical compound that should be the same wherever you buy it. But they also talk about products where it can be found, and they also talk about products that are certified, which is nice. That helps us. So creatine, I'm just going to go to the monograph. And just when you see the name, look at how long the scientific name is. Here's something very humorous. Somebody asked a question on the scan listserv about, and they literally listed this entire compound. They said, you know, it's this powder, it's supposed to do this, it's really expensive. And two of us immediately responded and said, that's a heck of a lot of money to pay for creatine monohydrate. But again, we go back to trying to impress people. So essentially, let's go down. I could actually, I'll do this fairly, okay, safety, likely safe when used orally and appropriately. And the studies, before I had this, you know, I was finding studies that said up to 5 years, and even in adolescent athletes. Now, by the way, just so you know, my personal opinion, until the kid has if the girl has started her period and the guy is shaving, then they're old enough to take creatine. I don't want prepubescent athletes taking creatine. That's my own opinion, okay? Just to let you know that. But possibly unsafe. There is absolutely no indication that creatine poses a risk for people who have healthy kidneys and a healthy liver. What happens, when you start creatine loading, your body breaks it down to creatinine and it's excreted. I got a phone call from a son, his football coach was going to a big name school. The coach was asking the players to take creatine. The dad was worried, got a hold of me, said he has one kidney. I said no. I said, plus I don't think you're going to have a problem getting a doctor to write a note to say, no, he's not going to take creatine. So we have good research support, and it's about 70% positive that taking creatine improves high intensity short-term performance. So sprinting 100 meters, vertical jump, like throwing a javelin, the really short-term explosive moves people would make, blocking in football, kicking a ball. And essentially, why does it work? I was going to have slides on that, and I just thought it would be easier to just basically say, when you look at the phosphagen energy system, that is what is recruited for the high power, very short duration, like 30 seconds or less activities, intermittent, very high intensity. And the phosphagen system is ATP and creatine phosphate. Well, when you start running out of ATP, creatine phosphate reloads ATP. That whole process is almost exhausted in about 10 seconds. In fact, there's the story of if you register the speed of people running the 100-meter dash, they're actually slowing down at the end because the phosphagen system is running out. So basically, creatine loads the phosphagen system the same way that carbohydrate loading increases muscle glycogen stores for endurance athletes. It is found in food, it's found in meat. Can you get enough from food to creatine load? No. I confess I love steak, but I couldn't eat that much steak. And so that, there is evidence that it is effective. So it starts out, it talks about what it's used for, but there is some evidence it can even help some movement disorders. So there are clinical applications for creatine as well. Now, so like I said, appears safe. The effectiveness, possibly effective, about, like I said, about 70% positive results. And then they talk about ineffective, dropping on down here, it will not help Lou Gehrig's disease. Insufficient evidence. Oh, I need to check this out. Aging skin. Okay. COPD, CHF, so look, it's been tested for a lot of different things. But when I go back to when I'm looking at safety, effectiveness, etc., I'm looking at the mechanism of action, and creatine totally makes sense it has biological plausibility. Then the monograph also talks about the adult, about the dose, and there are basically two ways. I'm just going to cut to the chase. There's a slow load method, 5 grams a day for a month. The fast load method, take 20 to 25 grams per day in divided doses for 5 to 7 days, then drop down to 5 grams or 3 grams. The loading dose, neither method is superior if somebody wants to rapidly increase creatine levels. There is some water retention with creatine, so in terms of the slow load, to me, just makes more sense, so the person doesn't feel, kind of bloated. And let's see, anything, and somewhere down here, children, it talks about adverse effects, and then goes on down. But it does talk about, I'm looking for it here, people use this for, I'd have to keep looking, but basically there's also background, here we go. Yeah, exactly. There is sort of why would it make sense to take this supplement, the background section, for the biological plausibility. So, let's see, I'm now going to look up, Cheryl, if you can type in bitter orange. Bitter orange, otherwise known as Citrus aurantium. We call it ephedra's baby brother. When the FDA banned ephedra, finally, and got it off the market, the supplement manufacturers knew this was going to happen. They started doing several things. They jacked the caffeine up way high, and they started adding Citrus aurantium, or bitter orange, which comes from the stuff you make orange marmalade out of. Seville oranges? Anyway, Citrus aurantium, bitter orange, it has synephrine and related compounds in it. Mild stimulant, not as much of a stimulant as ephedra. It could still cause you to test positive, but needless to say, if you noticed, I don't see this as much now because the dark side is having way too much fun putting drugs into their supplements. So, why mess around with a little herb when we can actually put a synthetic stimulant in and say, we got it from this little herb. But ingredients, editor's comment, synephrine, stimulant similar to ephedrine. So see, it's nice. You can just literally, this is going to save you a lot of time in trying to evaluate something. And the other thing is, my athletes, I'll sit down, I'll print this out. Here, we'll talk about it, but I can also just say here, take a look at this. You're an adult. But seriously, I have found that, I don't think I clicked on the monograph. Let me go back. Ingredients. Okay, I clicked on the specific. This doesn't want to go back. But, you can see it's a very easy process. And if you're a SCAN member, it's easy to get into the Natural Medicine's comprehensive database. And if you aren't, join or pay the extra money. I think it's over $100 a year. Oh, thank you, Cheryl. Go ahead and do it again. Yeah. Citrus aurantium or bitter orange again will work. I kept misspelling this yesterday when we were testing this, and I said, this is great. I'm going to get up and make a fool of myself in front of people. Bitter or professional monograph. Come on. There. Scientific name, Citrus aurantium. Here we go. Background. And it walks on down. People use this for appetite stimulant, safe. Now here's what I love. Likely safe. When used orally in amounts found in foods. In other words, when you drink orange juice, you do get a wee bit of Citrus aurantium in there. A tiny bit of synephrine. And then possibly unsafe. This is pretty good. If you use it medicinally. right? In other words, if you concentrate it and make it an extract and stick it in the supplement as a stimulant to promote weight loss, then there are issues. Then there are issues with safety. So then it walks on down the line here as well. But I just wanted to do that to show you how both of those worked. And then now, let's see, minimize it and see if I can get back. Yeah, so I want to thank everybody. I'm not quite done yet. So practice applications. Use valid internet resources to determine whether a supplement may cause you to fail a positive drug test. Supplement 411 and the Food and Drug Administration link that you have. I think my handouts are up, by the way. I think they're up. Use reliable internet resources to research supplements, which does, save yourself some time, folks, and sign up for Consumer Lab, become a SCAN member, or go to the Natural Medicines Comprehensive Database and join. Or you can email me, although if I come home with 100 emails, I'm not going to be happy. Just kidding. And how can you find third-party certification? You go to nsf.org, click on supplements. You can find products that have, in addition to the actual product has to have that NSF label on it, you can find products online that have passed testing. And to back up here, I'm a very avid hiker and backpacker, and about a week before flying out here, we did a backpacking trip in northern Yosemite, the northern Yosemite area. On the second to the last day, I'm going uphill. I catch my foot on a root, and because I'm climbing and I'm not going very fast, I literally went face right into the dirt. Here was I hit. I was really unhappy because when I hit my lip. My friend looks at me and says, "It's not good. You have a marble-sized blood blister on your top lip." My response was, why couldn't it have been my arm or my leg where I can hide it with clothing for the talk? But thanks to Neosporin and some other things, my roommate, Michelle Macedonio, who introduced our first speaker, looked at it and said, without your makeup, I can barely tell. And I was like, yes! So thank you, everybody. I will take questions.
Ask him to come to the microphone.
Oh, please, I'm sorry. Please come to the microphone.
Thank you. If you were to recommend a supplement, I know we said food first and safety above, but if you were to recommend supplements, which ones do you typically recommend? We talked about creatine, but are there any other ones that you might include in addition to creatine? Generally,
just so you know, I very rarely actually recommend a supplement. I have on occasion, but generally it's more the athlete comes to me and says, I want to take this product. At which point, okay, so what are the popular products? Protein supplement is a huge one. And then there are various pre-exercise supplements that they may want to work out with. Strength and power athletes want to know about creatine. They also want to know about whey protein. We also know, by the way, protein is also important for recovery from endurance exercise as well as strength and power activity. So protein is also critical for endurance athletes. And then you run into various ingredient, things like glutamine, which is, potentially can enhance immune function. By the way, appears to be very safe, but the research isn't, in healthy athletes, the research does not support that it's effective, but it's safe. This is actually a food more than a supplement, Juven, which I believe, Roberta, you here? HMB, Alanine? Glutamine. Thank you. Okay. And they have actually shown with that it makes, they have shown that it decreases muscle wasting in cancer cachexia and in AIDS wasting, and promotes healing following surgery. They actually inserted little microtubes into people and measured the rate of collagen synthesis, which I thought that's pretty cool. So you might have an athlete that is overtrained. I have never recommended Juven, but I know people who have. So that might be, but that's more of a medicinal food thing than a supplement. Obviously, then what else do I get asked about constantly? The weight loss supplements. And if I could, by the way, I would pretty much ban every energy drink ever made. I can't believe what they put in those things. Hey, I like my coffee, but it's coffee. I know all I'm getting is coffee with the caffeine and the other methylxanthines, and yeah. Did that help? Yeah, I might have if you want to know about a specific supplement, I may or may not know about an ingredient, but yeah.
Thank you very much for your talk.
I
can remember back in the mid-1980s when there was a big, we had to actually petition to have our rights continue to actually have supplements on the shelves, and they were wanting to take away our herbs, such as even like echinacea or vitamin C at that time. But then it didn't seem like where things were at were much simpler.
You know what is so amazing? It's almost like, here, I'll pay you at the end of the talk. Here's why. When Deshay came out, I am not a fan of Deshay. I'm really not. I love there was an article written called Scorin' with Orrin Hatch, because the Hatch Harkin Deshay. Now, what's interesting in the USA Today articles that I was just talking about, it talked about one of them. In fact, the title of that particular article is Supplement Makers Have Criminal Past. It's one of the best articles in the series. That's where I gave you the names. So I'm going to drop on down. As you're reading that article, when you get toward the bottom, it talks about how people with responsible, people who are responsible within the supplement industry said, we never had any idea that these shadow players would come in and spike stuff and do all this stuff to make money. So yeah, I think the intention was good, but it opened the door so the foxes could come in and go after the hens.
Yes, thank you very much for addressing that. Appreciate it.
Thank you. I really enjoyed your talk. I found it very informative. I actually formulate supplements for companies, and I just have to make one comment when it comes to the proprietary blend.
I know the purpose behind it.
Right. We have...
So you can't get copied.
Right. We have a very difficult situation in that a lot of other companies will try to copy your blends and your products.
Yes.
So that's really the reason why we use it.
The reputable people do it that way. The unreputable people do it to stick stuff in there that shouldn't be in there.
Unfortunately. So on our label...
No, but I do, like I said, you saw him on the EAS advisory board panel. There are the good players and the dark side.
Yeah, I just wanted to mention that.
Okay, thank you. Yeah.
Hi, thank you so much, Ellen. Ashley Ferreira. So I worked for 3 years at Nature Made as a senior research scientist, and just want to put in a plug, working for a high-quality USP-verified supplement company.
Exactly.
We share your frustrations and the bad and the poor players. There are actually 2 other resources I wanted to recommend, although non-athlete focused. The Office of Dietary Supplements has fact sheets that are written for healthcare professionals, and then also Oregon State University Micronutrient Research Center for vitamins, minerals, and herbs. So the Linus Pauling Institute at Oregon State University does really comprehensive info sheets on vitamins, minerals, and herbs. And then one more statement, just to remember that athletes also have the same nutrient gaps that regular adults do, that NHANES has shown. And so although, the ergogenics are a very niche area that, you focused on here, just to remember that those vitamins and minerals, A, C, E, D, calcium, mag, those are gaps.
I have never had a problem with a certified vitamin mineral supplement.
Yeah.
I will state that to the end of my days. There was a case where somebody tested positive, not with Nature Made, obviously, but somebody actually got a stimulant in a vitamin mineral supplement.
Yeah, oh,
so
sure.
Isn't that terrific? No, I agree with you.
Yeah, we just don't want to miss those gaps because of fear and hysteria over all the negative players. That's all.
Yeah.
So thank you so much.
But if you go certified.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah. Thank you so much, Ellen.
Hi. Thank you for a wonderful talk. Are you familiar with e-bars? They have guarana, or maybe you could explain a little bit about guarana if you know anything.
Guarana is a caffeine source. It's a caffeine source.
But when I asked the representative at our university who searches for that, he, was definitely, it's on the high risk. No, we shouldn't recommend that. But we actually, okay.
No, e-bars. Mm-hmm.
It's a newer product. It's actually made here in the area.
You've got my email. I'll look it up, but email me too, and I'll try to check it out.
Okay.
Guarana is essentially caffeine. Guarana, in fact, in Argentina in particular, people drink. They actually have a metal mug with a wooden straw. Put guarana leaf mate. That's mate. But guarana has also been used, in other words, not just for supplements.
So obviously there's the limit of caffeine if you're tested for an athlete.
Yes,
but I guess there's just not probably been enough.
They're monitoring it, and here's the good thing about caffeine is that it is ergogenic in very small doses, 1 to 3 milligrams per kilogram, consumed an hour before exercise, and then maybe during prolonged endurance exercise, maybe that same amount on occasion. But here's the great thing: the high doses make people really sick. So in other words, most people, back when caffeine was considered a banned substance by WADA, now it's being monitored, the amount of caffeine you had to take to fail a doping test, people were getting sick to their stomach and doing this. So.
Thank you.
Hello, thank you so much for your talk. So obviously there needs to be more regulation on these supplements. Do you think it's up to the FDA? And if so, what steps need to be taken towards having some sort of governing body monitor these like we do drugs?
I think the FDA is great. I don't know how we would work this out, but I wish some money would come from the sale. I wish there was some income, that they had some way of being taxed. There needs, having them regulate themselves doesn't necessarily work because of the number of bad players. I don't know what the answer is. The FDA needs more money. I don't know how we're going to get it to them. Look at everybody who needs more money right now. In the big scheme of things with the terrible things happening in the world. But I think the FDA, the FTC's done a really good job about going after false claims in terms of getting companies sued and pulling people off and fining them. I wish we could give the FDA more enforcement action, because as you can see, what's happening is this USA Today piece has actually helped us by getting some of the stuff off the market by exposing this. So they're overburdened. 85,000 different products. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Hello. Hello.
Hello.
My question is, what is your take on books like Prescription for Nutritional Healing by Phyllis Balch, and would you recommend any other type of books as opposed to just surfing online?
I have not read that one. My friend Michelle and I were just having a conversation. I haven't read that one, but we were discussing about that. I'm going to look around because I know there are good supplement resource books. And in that case, that is specifically indicated for healing, right? In the case, the one thing that I have really been impressed by with the Natural Medicines database is that, as you know how long it takes a book to get into publication. So the information that's covered there is probably timely and current, but then other compounds which may be being promoted for stuff, you can't find information on it because the book, basically even before it got into print, it was, a year or two old. So I'm not familiar with the book, so I can't comment on it.
Probably outdated even before the information is released.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Hi, Ellen. Thank you. Irene Susi from Delaware. Quick question. High school athletes, when given 5 minutes or less to convince them of the dangers, the concerns, what do you say?
What you say is that I've heard I'd have to find the article. It's on doping, and it was done by Gary Green, was interviewed by Louise Burke, and said the doping problem starts not just in high school, but in junior high. You have athletes experimenting in junior high and high school. So actually, what I would say to that is, depending on what you want to do with your athletic career, if you take something and it causes you to test positive for a banned substance, you can forget about it. Your eligibility is shot. You lose time. So you lose time, you lose a scholarship. So basically, what I would say to them is, if you want to take something, we need to sit down and talk about what you want to take and why you want to take it. And then I would help them if they want to do a protein supplement. Usually it's the guys and they want to do protein or creatine, okay? I would try to help them find a product, and here's the other thing, tell them how to use it. I was blown, being a dietitian, I'm like, oh yeah, I know what the dosage is. Number of athletes that have come to me that they're taking weird creatine doses. Like, why are you taking 10 grams? How long have you been on this stuff? 6 months? You don't need 10 grams. Use your, help educate them on the proper use of a safe supplement.
Thank you.
Yeah, you'll gain, here's the other thing. If it's a worthless supplement but it's safe, you're going to gain credibility because you listen to them. Oh, good. I was worried. Okay.
Perfect. Hi, I'm Jamie. I'm from Wyoming. I was just wondering, I actually yesterday at the expo was talking to a supplement vendor who was telling me that they don't trust USP, they weren't impressed with them, and therefore they followed AOAC testing protocols. So I was wondering if you could tell me a little bit about that.
I'm not familiar with AOAC.
I don't know much
And you know
about
what
it
else?
either.
I'm very suspicious that they don't like the USP.
I thought the same thing, so I didn't know if maybe
Oh, you know what? Let's see. You can either tell me the company. I wonder if Consumer Lab has tested their products.
I will have to look into that.
Yeah. That would be something to find out.
Yeah, I'll find out the name of the company.
See,
I'll send an
with
email to you.
third-party testing, just so you know, the company has to spend a lot of money to have their products third-party tested and certified. So I don't know how to make this happen across the board, because if there were some way that the supplement companies would put their money where their mouth is, the good players do. The EAS does with the NSF, Nature Made does with the USP. There are other companies as well. But yeah.
All right. Wonderful. Well, thank you.
Thanks, everybody. Cheryl tells me we're out of time, so thank you.